The Galactic Council chamber floated in space between three suns. 47 species had gathered here for thousands of years to talk instead of fight. The chamber's walls were made of crystal that sparkled with every color imaginable. Representatives sat in seats designed for their specific bodies. Some had tentacles, others had wings, and a few floated in tanks of liquid. Ambassador Chun walked into the chamber for the first time. She was human, and she felt very small. The other species had been traveling between stars for millennia. Humanity had only learned to fold space 70 years ago. Earth was new here, and everyone knew it. "The Council recognizes Earth," said the speaker, a being made entirely of light that shifted colors as it talked. Chum bowed slightly. "Thank you. Humanity requests full membership in the Galactic Council. We have submitted all required documentation and opened our worlds to your inspectors." A ripple of discussion moved through the chamber. The Kresh delegate stood up. He was tall, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. His species controlled 12 star systems and had joined the Council only 300 cycles ago, recent by galactic standards, ancient by human ones. "The Kresh have reviewed Earth's submission," he said. His voice was smooth, almost musical. "We find humanity interesting. Your military capabilities are substantial for such a young species. Your weapons are crude, but effective. Your soldiers show disturbing levels of aggression in combat simulations." Chun kept her face neutral. "We have fought wars in our past. We do not hide this. But we seek peace now. That is why we are here." The speaker's light pulsed. "The Council has existed for 12,000 cycles without major warfare. Species who join us agree to resolve all conflicts through dialogue. They agree to limit military forces to defensive needs only. They agree to follow the rules of civilized conflict. Can humanity accept these terms?" "We can," Chun said. It was not entirely true, but it was what they needed to say. Back on Earth, the generals had argued. Admiral Zhao had slammed his fist on the table. "They have no idea what real war is," he had said. "Their rules assume everyone plays fair. But we will follow them. For now. Because we need what they have: technology, trade routes, allies." The vote took 3 hours. In the end, 31 species voted yes, 16 voted no. Humanity was granted probationary membership. They could trade, but not vote. They could attend council sessions, but not propose laws. They would be watched carefully for 50 cycles. Chun thanked the council and left. As she walked down the crystal corridor, the Kresh delegate appeared beside her. "A word, Ambassador Chun?" She stopped. "Of course. Your world of New Hyderabad," he said casually. "It sits along a trade route the Kresh would like to develop. We would be willing to offer generous compensation for resettlement of your colonists." Chum felt ice in her stomach. New Hyderabad was home to 2 billion people. Families had lived there for 3 generations. Children had been born under its purple sky. "New Hyderabad is not for sale," she said quietly. The Kresh delegate smiled. It did not reach his eyes. "Of course. Just a thought. Good day, Ambassador." He walked away, his forearms swinging in rhythm. Chun immediately sent a coded message to Earth. Kresh showing interest in New Hyderabad. Recommend increased offensive preparations. The response came 8 hours later. Understood. We'll keep Council informed of any developments. Do not provoke. 3 months passed. The Kresh made 2 more offers, each more generous than the last. Each time, humanity refused. The Council noticed but said nothing. Territory disputes were common. They always resolved peacefully. That was how the galaxy worked. Then the Kresh stopped asking. On a Tuesday morning, New Hyderabad time, alarms screamed across the colony. 20 Kresh warships had appeared in orbit. They did not send warnings. They did not make demands. They simply began bombardment. Kinetic slugs fell from space like rain. Each one carried enough energy to vaporize a city block. The planet's defensive grid managed to stop the first wave, but the second wave overwhelmed it. Cities burned. Oceans boiled where the slugs hit water. The atmosphere itself caught fire in some places. In the capital city of Nova Mumbai, a mother named Sarah clutched her 2 children as their apartment building shook. She had time to think one thought: this cannot be happening. Before the ceiling came down, 2 billion people died in 6 hours. The crushed fleet left as quickly as it had come. They broadcast a simple message to Earth: New Hyderabad is now Kresh territory. Any attempt to reclaim it will be met with similar force. We have 40 more warships. You have been warned. On Earth, in the emergency command center beneath Geneva, Admiral Zhao watched the reports come in. His face was stone. Around him, men and women wept or raged or sat in stunned silence. Contact all our fleets, Zhao said quietly. Every ship, every soldier. Tell them to prepare for departure. Sir, the council, an aide began. Damn the council, Zhao said. Recall Ambassador Chen. Shut down all trade. Cut all communication with council species. We are done talking. What should we tell the Kresh? Another aide asked. Zhao thought for a long moment. Then he wrote 6 words and handed them to the communications officer. Send this. Nothing more. The message went out on all frequencies, in every galactic language. You have made a terrible mistake. The council convened an emergency session. The speaker's light flickered with distress. The Kresh action violates every principle we hold sacred. We must respond with sanctions, but humanity's seat was empty. And in the darkness between stars, human ships began to move. The Kresh High Command met in their fortress on the homeworld of Kresh Prime. The room was designed to intimidate high ceilings. Walls carved from black stone, displays showing their empire's 12 conquered systems. Fleet Commander Varak addressed the assembled officers with confidence. The humans have gone silent, he said. 3 weeks since New Hyderabad, and they have done nothing. They recall their ambassador. They close their borders, but they do not act. This is as we predicted. They are young, emotional, but ultimately rational. They understand they cannot win. His second in command, a scarred veteran named Thika, was less certain. Their message troubles me. You have made a terrible mistake. It does not sound like surrender. Varak laughed. It is grief talking. Let them grieve. In time, they will accept reality and negotiate. We will offer them compensation, perhaps a trade agreement. They will take it because they have no choice. The Galactic Council thought similarly. Species debated humanity's silence in the crystal chamber. Most agreed the humans were simply shocked, unable to comprehend that violence had returned to the galaxy. The Council prepared sanctions against the Kresh trade restrictions, diplomatic isolation, a strongly worded condemnation. Then human fleets appeared. They came from 8 different directions simultaneously. Not at Kresh Prime, but at the edges of Kresh territory. Logistics stations vanished in nuclear fire. Fuel depots that supplied Kresh warships exploded. Communication relay satellites simply stopped existing. The attacks were precise, coordinated, and absolutely ruthless. The Kresh scrambled to respond, but their fleets were scattered across 12 systems. Before they could consolidate, human ships hit the supply convoys moving between worlds. Kresh freighters died by the dozen. Some captains tried to surrender. The humans ignored them and fired anyway. This is not how wars are fought. Varak screamed at his staff. Where are the challenges? Where are the negotiations? They just attack and attack. A tactical officer pulled up footage from one engagement. A human destroyer had exhausted its missiles fighting 3 Kresh frigates. Instead of retreating, it accelerated to ramming speed. The crew abandoned ship at the last moment in escape pods while the empty destroyer plowed through a Kresh vessel at a significant fraction of light speed. Both ships became expanding clouds of debris. "They are insane," Thika whispered. The Council sent frantic messages to Earth. "You must follow the rules of civilized conflict. You must allow surrenders. You must negotiate." The response came from Admiral Zhao himself, broadcast to every Council species. "We never agreed to your rules. You want civilized warfare? Then do not start wars with humanity. We fight to win. We fight to destroy. We fight so that no one will ever think they can murder our children and live comfortably afterward." The Council was horrified. Several species threatened to intervene militarily, but those threats died quickly when human intelligence leaked. Documents showing which species had quietly supported Kresh expansion over the years. Old secrets came to light. The Council fractured into argument and recrimination. Meanwhile, humanity's campaign continued. They were not fighting for territory. They were dismantling the Kresh ability to wage war. Shipyards were targeted with kinetic impactors, simple lumps of metal accelerated to enormous speeds. No shields could stop them. No point defense could shoot them all down. The impactors turned construction facilities into craters. The Kresh deployed their main battle fleet, 200 warships, the pride of their military. They gathered at a strategic choke point and waited for the humans to come. It was the logical move, the move any Council species would make. Challenge the enemy to honorable battle. Negotiate if you win. Surrender if you lose. The human fleet never showed up. Instead, human special forces teams appeared on Kresh worlds. They moved through cities like ghosts, leaving behind devices the Kresh did not recognize. When detonated, these devices released a modified nanovirus that ate specific materials, the composite armor used in Kresh military equipment, the fuel cells in their vehicles, the processors in their computers. Within days, the Kresh military infrastructure on 6 worlds simply stopped functioning. "This is terrorism," the Kresh representative shouted at the Council. A human representative, not an ambassador. Just a colonel in uniform responded coldly. "No, terrorism is bombarding a civilian colony from orbit. We are making war. There's a difference." The Kresh battle fleet, running low on supplies with no logistics network to support it, was forced to split up. Human ships hunted the divided vessels, like wolves hunting deer. Kresh captains learned that human crews did not surrender even when their ships were crippled. They would fire every weapon, vent atmosphere as a maneuvering jet, and in one legendary case, a human captain detonated his own reactor while locked in a Kresh ship's docking clamps. 6 months after New Hyderabad, the Kresh military was functionally destroyed. Their worlds were intact, their population safe, but their ability to wage war was gone. Fleet Commander Varak sent a surrender offer. Humanity's response was simple: not yet. The Council begged humanity to accept the surrender. "You have won. This is enough." Admiral Zhao appeared before the Council in person. He was an old man, hair gray, eyes tired, but his voice carried the weight of 2 billion dead. "We have not won," he said. "We have simply stopped them from killing more of us. Now comes the accounting." "The accounting?" the speaker asked, light pulsing nervously. "Justice," Zhao said. "We will find everyone responsible for New Hyderabad. Every officer who gave orders. Every pilot who dropped the weapons. Every official who planned the attack. We will try them, and we will execute sentence." The Kresh thought they could kill 2 billion humans and face only diplomatic consequences. "We are going to teach them what consequences really mean." A Kresh representative, one of the few still on speaking terms with the Council, stood up. His voice shook. "You cannot do this. It violates every law of civilized society." Zhao looked at him with eyes like stone. "You should have thought of that before you murdered our children." Human forces began landing on Kresh worlds. The accounting had begun. The human teams moved through Kresh cities with purpose. They did not bomb. They did not terrorize. They simply came with lists of names and faces. Soldiers stood guard while lawyers presented warrants. They took people away in the night, but only specific people. Only those who had been involved. The trials were held in orbit above New Hyderabad's burned surface. Human judges presided. The representatives from 17 other species observed. Everything was recorded. Every piece of evidence was presented in detail. The Kresh defendants had lawyers, translators, the right to testify. Fleet Commander Varak was first. The evidence against him was overwhelming orders, communications logs, tactical plans. He had personally commanded the bombardment. His defense was simple. "I was following Kresh law." New Hyderabad was designated enemy territory. The human judge was a woman named Martinez. She had lost her daughter on New Hyderabad, but her voice never wavered. "Kresh law does not supersede the basic rights of sentient beings," she said. "You killed 2 billion civilians. You targeted homes, schools, hospitals. Your orders specified maximum casualties to force quick surrender. This court finds you guilty of crimes against sapient life." The sentence was death. Varak was executed by firing squad the next day. His body was sent back to Kresh Prime with a message, one of 2 billion. The trials continued. Officers, pilots, logistics personnel, who had known what they were supporting. Not everyone received death sentences. Those who had followed orders reluctantly, who had tried to minimize casualties, received prison terms. But the architects of the massacre, those who had planned and celebrated the attack, they all died. The council watched with growing horror. They sent delegation after delegation to Earth. "This is vengeance, not justice," a council representative argued. Admiral Zhao met them in his office. Behind him, a screen displayed the names of 2 billion dead, scrolling endlessly. "Call it what you want," he said. "But understand this, humanity is sending a message to every species in this galaxy. If you kill our civilians, we will not negotiate. We will not accept apologies. We will hunt you to the ends of space, and we will make you answer for every single life." But the trials were only part of humanity's plan. Human engineering teams, accompanied by freed client species who had suffered under Kresh rule, began dismantling the Kresh industrial base. They did it methodically, documenting everything. The main military shipyard at Kresh Prime had produced warships for 200 years. Human demolition experts placed shaped charges at every critical support structure. They let Kresh civilians evacuate the area first. Then they pressed the button. The shipyard collapsed in a carefully controlled implosion, metal folding in on itself like paper. "We are not here to kill you," the human commander told the shocked Kresh workers. "We are here to make sure you can never build another warship. Never again will you have the ability to do what you did to New Hyderabad." Industrial worlds suffered the same fate. Factories that produced military equipment were torn down. Mining operations that supplied war materials were shut down. The humans paid for alternative employment, helped establish civilian industries. But anything that could support warfare was systematically destroyed. Some council species protested. Others, especially those who had lost territory to Kresh expansion generations ago, quietly sent messages of support. A representative from the Talvek species, whose homeworld had been conquered 1,000 cycles back, made a statement to the council that became famous. "The Talvek remember what the Kresh did to us." The council expressed concern and did nothing. "Our world is still occupied. But now we see humans doing what should have been done long ago, making aggression so costly that no sane species would attempt it. The Kresh civilian population lived in a strange new reality. Human soldiers patrolled their cities, but they were not occupiers in the traditional sense. They provided food, maintained order, protected civilians from the chaos of collapsed government. But they also searched everywhere for those responsible for New Hyderabad. A young Kresh named Velik watched human soldiers arrest his teacher, a decorated war hero who had commanded one of the bombardment vessels. The teacher had never spoken of it, had seemed kind and gentle. But the humans showed video evidence of him celebrating after the attack, bragging to colleagues about his kill count. Did you know? Velik asked his parents that night. His father's face was heavy with shame. We did not want to know. The government told us New Hyderabad was necessary, that the humans were a threat. We believed because it was easier than questioning. Humanity's message was spreading. Human representatives met quietly with leaders of other species, showing them detailed records of the New Hyderabad attack, making sure every species understood exactly what the Kresh had done, and exactly what humanity's response had been. A year after the bombardment, Admiral Zhao announced the New Hyderabad Accords before the Galactic Council. The treaty was simple. Any species that deliberately targeted civilians would face total warfare. No negotiations. No mercy. No council interference. Sign this treaty, Yao said, and humanity will guarantee your civilian populations are safe from us. Refuse to sign, and we will assume you reserve the right to attack civilians. We will treat you accordingly. It was a threat wrapped in diplomatic language. 38 species signed within weeks. They looked at what humanity had done to the Kresh and understood that these strange, violent apes from Earth meant every word. The Kresh dominion still existed, but barely. Their military was gone. Their economy was in shambles. A council-monitored provisional government struggled to rebuild civilian infrastructure. Every Kresh child now learned about New Hyderabad in school, not as a military operation, but as the worst mistake their species had ever made. Velik sat in his classroom and listened to the lesson. The human advisor who oversaw the curriculum stood in the back, silent but present. The teacher explained how 2 billion humans had died, how the Kresh had thought themselves powerful enough to ignore the consequences. Remember this, the teacher said quietly. Remember so that we never repeat it. The galaxy thought humanity was weak because they were young. The galaxy learned that humans fight differently than everyone else. They fight like extinction is on the line. Every time. All the time. Velik raised his hand. Will the humans ever leave? The teacher looked at the human advisor, who nodded permission to answer honestly. The humans will leave when they are certain we understand what we did. When they are certain we will never do it again. That may take generations, Velik. That is the price we pay. 20 years after New Hyderabad, Ambassador Chun walked through the rebuilt council chamber. She was older now, hair gray, but still representing humanity. The chamber looked the same: crystal walls, seats for 47 species, the speaker's light floating at the center. But everything had changed. Wars still happened in the galaxy. The council had not created perfect peace. But the wars were different now. 2 species might dispute a border, might send ships to reinforce their claims, might even exchange fire. But neither side targeted civilians. Neither side dropped bombs on cities, because everyone remembered what humanity did to species that crossed that line. The Kresh representative sat in a diminished section, far from the center of power. His name was Velik. The young student who had watched his teacher arrested was now old enough to speak for his people. He avoided Chun's eyes as she passed. The council was debating a territorial dispute between 2 species Chun had never heard of. They argued, they postured, they made threats. Then one side suggested orbital bombardment of the other's colony. The chamber went silent. The speaker's light flashed red. The representative will retract that statement immediately. I apologize. I spoke in anger. Chun did not say anything. She did not need to. Every species in the chamber remembered New Hyderabad. They remembered the trials, the executions, the dismantling of Kresh power. They remembered that humanity still kept its fleets at full strength, still patrolled the space lanes, still enforced the New Hyderabad Accords. After the session, Valak approached Chen carefully. "Ambassador, may I speak with you?" She nodded. They walked to a quiet observation deck overlooking the three suns. "My people wish to apologize again," Valak said. "We know our apologies mean little. 2 billion lives cannot be balanced by words." Chun looked at him. She had heard this speech before, many times. But Valak seemed genuine in his distress. "What do you want, Valak?" "Permission to place a memorial on New Hyderabad. We have funds collected from voluntary donations. We want to build something that honors the dead, to show that we remember." Chun was quiet for a long time. Back on Earth, the debate about Kresh reparations still raged. Some wanted eternal punishment. Others argued for eventual reconciliation. She personally did not know which was right. "I will bring your request to Earth," she said finally. "But Valak, understand something. Humanity does not forgive easily. We have long memories. Your children's children will still be learning about what your people did." "I know," Valak said. "We deserve that. But we hope that one day, in 1,000 years or 10,000, humanity might see that we learned, that we changed." Chun left him standing there and returned to her shuttle. As it lifted off, she looked down at the council station. So many species, all carefully avoiding conflict now. All aware that the young species from Earth had permanently altered galactic civilization. On Earth, Admiral Zhao had retired. He spent his days at a memorial wall where 2 billion names were carved in stone. He would run his fingers over the letters, remembering the day the news came in, remembering the rage, the grief, the cold decision to make an example that would last millennia. Sometimes people asked him if he regretted the harshness of humanity's response. "Every day," he would say, "but I would do it again." Because now, when species plan wars, they think twice about targeting civilians. How many billions have we saved by making the Kresh an example? How many children are alive because their leaders fear humanity's wrath? The New Hyderabad Accords had been signed by all 47 council species. Humanity added clauses over the years, protections for refugees, rules for treatment of prisoners, strict definitions of military versus civilian targets. Each clause was backed by the implicit threat: violate these rules and face what the Kresh faced. Some species resented humanity's role as enforcer. They whispered that Earth had become a tyrant, that humans enjoyed their power too much. But those whispers stayed quiet. No one wanted to test humanity's resolve. In the Sol system, the human fleet trained constantly. New generations of officers learned the lessons of New Hyderabad, not just the tactics, but the philosophy. A captain named Sarah Johnson, granddaughter of a New Hyderabad survivor, stood before her crew and explained it. "We are not peacekeepers," she said. "We are the reason species keep peace. They know that if they start targeting civilians, we will come. Not with diplomacy, not with sanctions. We will come with fire, and we will not stop until they understand that some lines must never be crossed." Her crew nodded. They had all grown up with the stories. They had all visited the memorial walls. They understood what they represented. In the Kresh system, life continued. The Dominion was a shadow of its former self, dependent on trade with other species, monitored by council observers, forbidden from rebuilding military capacity. Crash children grew up knowing their species' history, knowing the shame that came with the name New Hyderabad. But something unexpected happened. Some Crash began to embrace the lesson. They became advocates for peace, using their own tragedy as a warning to others. When species on the edge of conflict needed mediators, some called on Crash diplomats, who better to explain the cost of aggression than those who had paid it. Velik became one of these mediators. He would tell the story of his teacher's arrest, the trials, the dismantling of his homeworld's power. He would show images of New Hyderabad's scarred surface. And he would say, "This is what happens when you think violence is the answer. Learn from us. Do not make our mistake." Ambassador Chen eventually approved the memorial. It was built on New Hyderabad, near what had been Nova Mumbai. 2 billion names carved in black stone, spiraling up toward the sky. At the center, a simple phrase in every galactic language: remember the cost. Crash and humans worked together on the memorial. It was awkward, painful, but somehow necessary. A human worker and a Crash builder found themselves eating lunch together one day, neither quite sure how it happened. "My grandmother died here," the human said. "My uncle commanded one of the bombardment ships," the Crash replied. "He was executed." They sat in silence, two people from species who had been enemies, working on a memorial to ensure it never happened again. 50 years after New Hyderabad, the galactic peace held. Not because everyone loved each other, not because conflicts had disappeared, but because everyone understood the rules now. Everyone knew what waited for those who broke them. The galaxy had learned that humanity fought differently. They fought like every war was personal. They fought like they would never stop until justice was done. And most importantly, they fought with a memory that lasted generations. Admiral Zhao died at age 93, surrounded by family. His last words were reported across the galaxy. "We did what we had to. We protected our own. I hope we never have to do it again." Humanity hoped that too, but their fleets stayed ready. Their soldiers stayed trained. Their resolve stayed firm, because the galaxy was not ready for human wrath. And humanity would make sure it never forgot.